Hi, this is Peter Bracke, author of Crystalline Memories, and I'm very excited to be here to host the audio commentary for Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning. And with me is.
Hi, I'm Melanie Kinnaman. I play Pam Roberts in Part 5, and I'm happy to be here with Peter.
And Melanie and I are thrilled to have with us remotely.
Hi, I'm Deborah Voorhees. I played Tina in Part 5, and I'm really happy to be with all you guys, too.
And hi, I'm Tiffany Helm. I play Violet in Friday 5, and I'm delighted to be part of this.
Actually, this is the opening with Corey Feldman. Did you guys meet Corey Feldman?
Yes, I met Corey Feldman. He came to the screening and he introduced himself and said how much he loved Part 5 and how much he really had a great time doing Part 4. And he complimented our work on it. It was very nice to meet him. He was very, very sweet. And I've seen him over the years, and I just saw him last week.
And of course, Deborah, you've obviously now worked with Corey, correct?
I have. He came and was on in Fanboy or 13 Fanboy. It was really interesting working with him. This particular situation, we gave him a script. He kind of took the general idea of the script and ran with it and just basically improv'd it, and it was just pure genius. It was absolutely brilliant. He did a magnificent job.
How about you, Tiffany?
I have not met him. Haven't worked with him.
So, how familiar were all of you with the Friday the 13th series at this point? Because by this point, you had 4 movies. It was a pretty big, known franchise, right?
I really didn't know anything because I didn't like horror films. I didn't like going to them because they scared me. So I didn't know anything about Friday the 13th until the audition. And so when they were interested in me playing the role, I went to see Part 4. Kimberly Beck was a friend of mine, so I went to see Part 4, and I was very shocked that this is what we were going to be doing.
I didn't know about Friday the 13th very much either. Of course, I had heard of it. It seems to me that at that time I probably had seen the first one, but that was about it. Just, I really didn't understand how big this series was.
Well, I'm actually watching this right now. I remember going into the theater to watch this when this opened up, and it's like I knew the first one, knew kind of like what this thing was about, and then but when he like stands up out of his grave, like I was not expecting the audience to practically give him a standing ovation. Like everyone was just whooping and hollering and clapping when Jason gets up out of his grave. So that was kind of like, oh, okay, this is where we are. But no, I didn't know the Friday the 13th franchise. Again, it was like, as I'm sure it's been shared, this script came out as the repetition, to keep it on the down low and to keep paychecks low.
Right, exactly. That was something interesting, Tiffany. I did the same thing of course, I went to the premiere, but that's different than going and seeing it with a general audience. And I just went in just to see how the audience responded, and I had that same similar kind of situation. It was like, oh, okay.
The audience went crazy right here when I saw it at the opening night. This was when I finally realized that it was the biggest thing. I had no idea till he started walking right now towards the camera. The place erupted. Yeah.
Well, because it's interesting, by this point in the series, Jason was like he was the star of the movie.
He's the star of the movie. Still is.
Yeah. Because it's interesting, the first couple movies, it wasn't quite like that. Like the audience Jason wasn't in the first one. Yeah. So, but that shifted. So I think by the time he got his hockey mask, yeah, I mean, I remember as a kid, we were all going to see Jason.
That's it. Yeah. That's the e-ticket.
Yeah. Do you guys remember your auditions or how you heard about this? Right? To your agents?
Yeah, my agent sent me in on the audition. Again, I did not know what it was about. And I went in, and they didn't tell me because, like the girls said, it was called repetition. But I knew from the scene that they asked me to do, they said, Danny Steinman and Frank Mancuso Jr. said, we need you to improv that you're being murdered and go. So I took 5 minutes and I went and did it. And I remember when I finished my improv, I was on the floor crying, and I looked up, and their jaws were wide. Their faces were shocked, and their jaw was hanging wide open. So I guess I did my murder scene quite well.
I just remember I went back 3 times, and the first 2 times it was just long lines, like a cattle call kind of thing. So that was the main thing that struck me, was just how many people were there. And I do remember that when they saw my name was Voorhees, they were pretty darn excited about it. What about you, Tiffany?
Well, I remember, the part of Violet was written for this little, the breakdown came out as a Pat Benatar type. Because she was what I guess Hollywood thought punk rock was at the time. That Love is a Battlefield video, just tanked the underground scene. But I don't remember really specifics. I remember it was a time in my life where I was a little above the ideal weight for actresses my age going in for the roles. Like usually they wanted the pretty slim, hard bodies. And I would always have some song and dance about, why I was bigger or why my hair was that color or, but I think I sold them on my look. It was authentic. I didn't have to put color in my hair. I didn't have to do any of that stuff. So, I think they just everything that I've heard, in acting was especially now, you need to go in as the character. They're not interested in seeing your transitions, that you're a wonderful actor and can hit, these amazing moments. They want to see you as the character. So, and it's if they're not decided on it, then you have to sell them on what the character should be. And I guess I did.
I'm really surprised that you say that, Tiffany, because I remember I thought you had a terrific body. I would have never have thought anybody would have thought you were. They thought you had people who actually said they thought you were a little overweight. Did I misunderstand? Because that just seems crazy.
No, when I started the business, I was quite slim, and I ended up putting on weight over. Actually, it was very quickly over the course of one of the films I worked on. Mm-hmm. Agent specifically, he was used to seeing me in a certain way, and it was definitely I was a harder sell. No one actually needed to come out and say that, but it's you saw who was working at the time and who was getting the roles. It's different now. It's it's much more, I don't know, just you do you nowadays, but it wasn't that.
Right.
No? Beautiful. Sit there. I don't give a shit.
Hey, how you doing?
Tommy Jarvis? Hi, my name is Pam Roberts. I'm the assistant director. I'm glad you're here. Well, if you'd like to grab your things, I'll take you in to meet the doctor, okay? Thank you.
Anytime, doll.
How was the ride? Come on, Tommy. You okay?
So here we have Melanie's big entrance as Pam.
Yeah, I remember this like it was yesterday. This because it was so dramatic. I was so nervous. It was the first day of shooting. And Danny and I had to have a powwow, came to the dressing room because the wardrobe girl, first of all, the outfit is hideous, and the wardrobe girl had brought in jewelry for me. Now, I'm playing a psychiatrist in a really low-key halfway house, and she put this jewelry on me that was giant, these giant multicolored beads with giant earrings that nobody wears, and bracelets. And so I went to Danny, I said, this character should not be wearing this stuff, you know, and on top of it, it doesn't match the outfit. So Danny agreed with me, and we had to go and talk to the wardrobe girl who insisted I wear it. So luckily, Danny came to my defense, and we pulled that stuff off of me, and then he says, action. So this is what's going on here, and I remember it like it was yesterday.
Where was all this filmed? Do you guys remember?
Camarillo? Camarillo.
Yeah.
Camarillo, California, which is north of Los Angeles County. I would say it was like a 40-minute drive for me to the set.
Up the stairs, and it's the first door on your left.
Do you guys have, obviously there's John Shepherd as Tommy, the grown-up Tommy Jarvis. Do you guys have memories of working with John?
John was so easy to work with. He and I approached the characters the same. We had the same attitude, style. So he was very easy to work with. Richard Young, who's in this scene, very, very easy to work with. He was a great actor. It was just really a dream to work with these two actors.
I always thought it was funny, the whole concept. I don't know if you guys, if that was something when you saw the script, like, why are all these teens, troubled teens, in a halfway house in the middle of the woods?
Creepy. Yeah.
Do you guys, Tiffany and Deborah, do you remember John Shepherd?
I really liked John a lot. I really respected how seriously he took the film. He didn't just blow it off because it's a horror movie or anything. He really took his part seriously, and I really liked that. And I like him as a human being. He's just a neat guy.
Yeah, I would echo that. I mean, I didn't talk to him a whole lot, but I mean, that was my impression of him. I think I talked to him more at the HorrorCon we all did together than actually on set. But yeah, I appreciated his work, and yeah, like what Deborah said, he took it seriously. He did a great job. A+.
You scared of spiders? You scared of rubber spiders? You scared of rubber spiders on strings? Man, you are one scared cat. Where I come from, you learn to be scared of nothing. They call me Reggie the Reckless. No spider would scare me. Jump, man.
And then, of course, we have Reggie the Reckless, little Shavar Ross.
I'm looking at Shavar. He's so young here, and I see him a lot. We work together on a couple of things, and he was a dream to work with, too. Talk about professional. Shavar was so prepared every single day. He got one take, he got everything. John was the same. You know, working with these actors was a real dream for me because I was new to film. I had done a lot of things in theater. So, you know, I was nervous, and they made it very easy for me.
I mean, you act like you made these things or something.
So was this relatively shot in sequence, the movie? Do you guys remember?
No, films are never shot in sequence. You shoot by location.
It wasn't shot in sequence, but I will say this beginning of the film was the first day of shooting for me. Okay. So it was in sequence for me up till we got to the rainy stuff.
So Tiffany and Deborah, like, did you, like, you and all the rest of the, you know, younger, like, not counselors, I guess, the other halfway house residents, you guys, like, hang out and do stuff at the beginning, like, get to know each other to, like, bond? Is that, like...
I mean, I think mostly, I mean, we visited and talked with each other on set and stuff, but, you know, you're working when you're on set, and there's also, you know, when things are going on, you've got to be kind of quiet and stuff too, so.
Yeah, and Juliet and I were friends. Like, we had gone to the same school together. We drove into set a lot of times together. We were like, she was my BFF on set, and we were around together a lot. And the makeup lady, I forget her name, with a
Kathy.
glass.
Kathy.
Was it Kathy?
Yes, I talked to her last week. It's Kathy.
Because I have the picture of her when she did her face up like half and half on actual Halloween day. She did the skeleton makeup.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, and I absolutely adored her. Absolutely clicked with her. So those were kind of my two besties on the set. I liked everybody on the set, but those were the two that I connected with.
And then just showing up now is Ethel and Ron Sloan as
Junior.
Junior. Yeah, these characters I think a lot of fans love a lot.
They're fan favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. They're so.
Ron is great in this.
And then Debbie, you just made your entrance as well with Robert John Dixon. That's his name, correct? Yeah.
I talked to him too.
Now, Ron Sloan just played Dee Wallace's husband in 13 Fanboy. It was a real pleasure to work with him. He did a terrific job. He really did. The two of them worked really well together. You definitely felt like they were, a couple that had had years of, living together. It was really nice. And Carol came in for a cameo at our horror convention, which was nice.
Oh, fun.
I'm just so glad they made Ethel's hair worse than mine. Nobody looks worse than me except Ethel, and I'm so grateful.
I thought your hair looked pretty.
Hideous. Hideous.
Your hair? I thought it looked really pretty.
Marco St. John looks better than me in this movie.
Oh, you're silly. Not so. You're beautiful.
Jason looks better than me in this movie.
It's so funny. I don't know if you guys know, but
Look at Richard. Richard Young. He's so handsome. I forgot that.
well, did you guys know he played? He's the inspiration for Indiana
Yes,
Jones.
I know he is.
Yeah, he's in The Last Crusade. He plays the character that Harrison Ford's character models himself after. So he's really like the father of Indiana Jones.
Fantastic.
You can see it in his looks. I guess we should mention here's Joey with his chocolate bar and Vic, and they both passed away in real life, right?
Yes, they did. Yeah. Marco. Mark Venturini was he died very young. He was 35. He had leukemia. Great guy. We became friends on the set on this shoot, and there's.
I had heard he died, but I didn't know how. What
He
happened?
had leukemia. Yeah, he was 35 when he passed. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know why, for some reason, fans love this scene with Joey in the chocolate bar and you, Tiffany and Juliet. So not to overstate it, but Tiffany and Deborah, what's interesting about Friday the 13th is, a lot of times it's about like character types. They're not like, really necessarily deep characters, but obviously Tiffany, you had like the Susie Sue kind of look, but Deborah, like in terms of like your character and what she wore and how she was, like how much input, did you have into that?
I pretty much picked everything, and yeah, it was my choices. I would say, in fact, entirely.
Tiffany's so beautiful in this scene. I love it.
I love that.
But look at Mark Venturini. He's beautiful in this scene, too. Hello.
I just wanted to keep that dress. I love that thing.
It is a pretty one.
Well, it was just kind of cool and funky, and I picked it out, and I'm like, yeah, I want it, and that was something wardrobe wouldn't let it go.
Really? Oh, you couldn't keep it?
Nope.
They could have kept all of mine.
I wonder if it's still somewhere. I didn't keep any of mine either.
Neither did I.
Yeah, a lot of times they'll release it after a while. Like you can call them back after like a couple of years, and you can get. I used to like get all kinds of stuff from projects I'd worked on, but I never did get that dress.
You should have gone and stole it at the end of the shoot.
That would be a very good cause. Because they have to do like they have to do inserts and stuff, and they need for continuity and inserts.
Right. Yeah, if somebody needs to use the outfit just for a hand reach or something for a cut or something, you have to have the outfits there and available for it.
He looks like Paul Newman in this scene from HUD.
Well, if that's the way you feel, forget it, Vic. Just forget it. But I think you're really out.
So yeah, you mentioned Danny Steinman. What was Danny Steinman? What was Danny Steinman like as a director for all of you?
Oh, I'll go last on that.
Yeah, Deborah. Yeah, what was your experience with Danny?
You know, I had a really good experience with him. He was always very nice and very kind to me.
Yeah, same with me. I have nothing but good things to say about Danny, and I appreciate. You know, I got to work with Altman on one of my first films, so it's really nice to work with a director that gives you room, and Danny did that. You know, I mean, just how they had to redo the whole death scene for me. Like he rolled with it, right? There's a lot of directors who can be a little control-y, right? And he was not that. And it's really nice as an actor to be able to have some freedoms, you know, and director to trust you to make the right decisions. It's like, just hit your marks, but do what you need to do, right?
Right. I think that's important as a director. If you don't trust your actors, then you probably shouldn't have hired them. They really deserve that respect. When I direct somebody, the first thing I do is nothing, because I want to see what they're bringing to it. I can give them, as soon as I give them direction, they're going to change something for me. And what if I miss something absolutely brilliant that they were going to do that, you know, but that they changed it to please me. And then very often it's still not the right thing. I think it's better to have the actor first step in, and then if you need to make adjustments, work from there.
Yeah. Good advice.
We had kind of the relationship surprised me because he cast me. He really wanted me for the film. He was very nice to me in the audition process. But when we started working together from the first day on the set, it was very difficult. He didn't work with me. He worked against me. But that actually worked for me because it gave me a lot more. I was much more driven because of the conflict, and in that respect, it helped me a lot. And then he left me alone because I asked him a few things that some input on a few scenes, and he told me that he wasn't going to give me any. That it was, do whatever you want to do. So from that moment on, I thought, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I mean, it was unusual, but it ended up working out for me in the end. And he did, at the end, the last day of shoot, he apologized to me for being combative and not being, what's the word? It's good to have somebody encourage you, It helps the scene. It helps the process. It helps the development. And you're working under the gun because time is very important. They want to get it on film and do it fast. So it would have been nice to have a little bit more encouragement, but in the long run, it worked out for me. So.
Was there, you mentioned a pressure, Melanie, and low budget. It's interesting because like now with micro budgets and Blumhouse, this doesn't seem that low budget
No.
by today's standards.
No,
Yeah.
but at the time it was because you know, you would hear every day about what they were going to cut, and simple things like, well, I need a ride because my car's in the shop. Well, we can't come and get you, you know, because it's not in the budget. That kind of stuff was interesting, but no, this was not low budget in terms of today. Now,
Yeah, it's like $3 million, I think it was.
yeah, I think it was $3 million. Yeah.
And for you, Deborah and Tiffany, like, did you have any sense of like budget, or you know, what did it feel like to you guys? Did it feel like a big studio movie to you?
You know, I really didn't have any sense of what the budget was or anything. I certainly didn't have any issues because of the budget for my particular character or my scenes. But for me, I really didn't notice anything different.
No, I mean, you know, comparing to other jobs that I had done, I mean, I wanted for nothing. We'll say that, you know, they paid overtime. They didn't like balk at it, like great food, like nice set, top-notch crew. I'd worked with some of the crew members on other stuff. So yeah, I never even thought about it as low budget. Just, you know, I mean, the only thing that I knew was that it was favored nations, meaning that we were all getting paid the same thing. So that was my only indication that it was low budget.
It was funny. I interviewed Juliet Cummins once, and she was like, you know, at that age, she's like, just having your own trailer, you know, having a trailer and all that kind of stuff is so exciting that, you know, it seems big and huge, you know, when you're just starting out, you know, so I guess it's all relative.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
yeah, low budgets can't afford to have the trailers and stuff there these days. So, you know, I definitely wouldn't consider it a low budget film.
Well, and it was Paramount after all.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting because, you know, back then Paramount, you know, there's been a lot of talk about were they ashamed of the series or not, because technically these were like negative pickups. But did it feel like a Paramount movie to you? Was there a Paramount presence at all?
Yes, and Frank Mancuso Jr. would
Mancuso,
be there a lot.
he's a presence on the set. Like, you felt that energy when he was there.
And he did come a lot. He did come to the set a lot, especially when we were doing the exterior rain sequences and all the running and the chase and the violence, and he was there for all of that. I remember him being out in the cold and the rain, and I was shooting that scene from the barn, and he was there, and he between takes he said, "Cover her up. Somebody put something on her," because it was 30 degrees and I was soaking wet. So Frank was standing right there, and he was hands-on for all of that exterior rain running sequences.
Yeah, when I was doing the scene in the woods, he was very, very particular to make sure, both he and Danny, that I was really well taken care of. Because it's intimidating when you're doing a nude scene like that, and you don't really know people, and it's your first day and everything. And he definitely...
That was your first day?
Yeah.
Ever?
It
was.
And yeah, he made sure that, you know, I was well taken care of and stuff. So both he and Danny both were really good about it. So that was really nice.
Well, that's important. That's nice to hear.
Yeah.
Another thing, a lot of fans enjoyed the scene with the dinner table, you know, with Jerry Pavlon when he says this famous line, you don't set a place for a dead person. I don't know why. Fans love that line for some reason.
They love it. I've signed many pictures that say, "I said I was sorry." Or now that I'm in Canada, I can say, "I said I was sorry."
I love here, Tiffany, like how you always have your headphones on. Your character does. I don't know if that was something you thought up.
Probably. Like, I don't remember specifics, but I mean, I had it on. I had it on the set all the time. Yeah. So I think it just kind of, you know, crossed over. But I think actually that the character might have been written that way too.
Look at the great belt you're wearing. Was that your personal?
I love that belt. That was. Did I get that belt?
Was that yours?
No, that was something Wardrobe bought for me. Like everything, Wardrobe got me all my clothes. I just picked them out.
I actually like your look here, Melanie, in this scene. I think you look pretty good in this scene. I don't know why.
Well, so I have one good scene.
And then I was going to ask you, Deborah, about Robert John Dixon. 'Cause, I guess he was your boyfriend in the movie. Because he kind of, he disappeared a bit. It was hard to find him. I don't think he's ever done a convention, has he? I'm
No,
not sure.
I talked to him. He's a real estate agent, very successful real estate agent. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I know, is that he sells real estate. We've briefly chatted through Facebook, but that's it.
There he is. He was a lot of fun to work with. He brought a lot of joy. He brought a lot of joy to the set. He was always up. It was nice to have him there, especially shooting some of this stuff because, it was very depressing, a lot of the stuff. It was, the scenes were depressing.
Yeah, because even like this little table scene, I mean, it's kind of intense. Like every scene there is
intense.
Yeah, I mean, there's some humor, but it's not a lot of levity in the movie itself.
And believe me, on the set shooting it was very intense. I mean, what you see here, you get.
Did you guys watch any of the death scene being films? Like, I mean, were you guys aware of how gory these movies were?
I didn't see any of them. Just my stuff, anything I was involved with. But the other stuff, I didn't want to be around for it.
How about you guys? Well, obviously we'll talk about your scenes when we get there. But did you guys watch any other death scenes? Or are you aware of how, just in general, how gory the movie is going to be?
Well, I think I pretty much did know that it was going to be really gory. But, a lot of that stuff, they kept us away from, just to keep everything as secretive as possible.
Yeah, and I felt I felt all of our gore and effects and everything were really dialed down. I had seen enough slasher movies. Of course, they don't compare to the stuff that's out today, but it's I thought ours was tame comparatively.
Right.
Compared to today, yes.
Yeah, well, even back then, it's I felt the slasher movies were much more gory than this.
Yeah, the MPAA was pretty hard on the Friday the 13th movies at the time. They made them cut out a lot. Yeah.
Well, we had originally got an X rating, and they had to go back and cut.
Yeah, it's funny. I have the sheet from the MPAA that has like all the marks that says you got to cut this, you got to cut. There's like 25 notes, and pretty much every gore, or kill had to be trimmed in some way. I think Danny said 1/10 of what he shot made it on the screen.
What the heck was Ron Sloan eating there?
I don't know.
That's a disgusting scene. And I think he was really eating it.
Slop, I think, some
What?
sort of slop.
Oh.
And then Dick Wien here is, of course, Joey's father, which we don't know yet. Do you guys remember Dick?
Oh, yeah. I see him from... Yeah, Dick, I didn't even know that he was the killer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a good question.
I didn't know he was the killer.
Did Deborah or Tiffany, do you guys know who the killer... Did they tell you who the killer was?
No, I didn't know who it was.
Tom Morga.
Well, I didn't know until I did that barn scene where I throw him, he falls backwards in my fight with him, and they peel the thing off, and I go, oh my God, it's Dick Wien.
Yeah, that's a detail I actually don't remember. We all had scripts, but I do not remember that, if it was told to us or not.
I don't think it was.
This is a funny scene. I wasn't here for when they shot this, but I remember seeing the dailies on this with Lana.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I did a interview for Reform School Girls, which I guess is getting a release after like 34 years being banned in Germany, and they honestly asked me what it was like working with Tom's brother, and I was like, I didn't, because his brother is who directed Reform School Girls, right? Mm-hmm. And I didn't. First of all, I didn't work with him. Who is it? Who's the DeSimone that we're looking at right now?
Bob DeSimone, I
Bob,
believe.
right. So I didn't work with Bob, and like I honestly didn't make the connection until years later, because I saw him and I'm like, wow, that guy looks really familiar, because they look exactly alike, Tom and Bob.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's funny that his brother was the director for Reform School Girls, and I had no clue for the longest time.
Boy, am I glad they killed him.
Yeah, this movie's interesting because some of the characters are kind of on the obnoxious side.
I wanted him dead.
Yeah.
Like a little preventive medicine. And the forecast is cloudy in the mountains, sunny in the valleys, and snow flurries up your nose.
I don't know if he loves me, but I think he does.
Billy?
What's this also film is also interesting in that more than any of the other Friday the 13th, probably it cuts away a lot to these sort of like side characters to kill them off that don't really connect with the core group of you guys at the camp.
No, maybe that made it interesting. I don't know. I'm not the audience for it, or I thought it was confusing, but again, maybe fans found this very interesting. Oh my God, she's wearing the necklace I refused. I just saw this. That's a necklace I
At least I got use out of it. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think some fans like it for that reason. Yeah, that it kind of goes off. And I mean, Danny Steinman did say specifically that Paramount told him you have to have a kill every few minutes. I mean, that's just part of the formula. I think they think the audience will get bored if you don't kill someone every few minutes.
Which is why they didn't do any really in-depth character development.
Yeah.
Nobody really cared about the main characters. They just wanted to get to the deaths. The fans did tell me that the minute I came on the screen, they knew I was the final girl and I wasn't going to die. That fascinates me. I hear this all the time because I don't get that. But they explained to me why. But everyone has said that to me, that they knew I was the final girl.
Wow.
That's pretty interesting.
Well, I think one thing might be too, you're introduced by yourself, whereas most of the other characters are in a group.
Oh, I never thought of that. Okay,
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, because it's interesting because the early Friday the 13th, it was like a much smaller group. It was like maybe 5 or 6 kids who get killed. And I think this movie has like 22.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, there's a lot more characters too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And periphery characters. You know, like you said, other
Yes.
characters that weren't in the main story about the halfway house. You had all these, like
Sure.
Lana. We're watching Lana right now.
Yeah, you have no idea who she is.
No.
Yeah, no.
No. So again, maybe that made it much more interesting for the audience.
Yeah.
For me, it's confusing. Like, what's her connection? You know.
Yeah. Yeah, this might be a taste issue. Some people like it and some people don't. Yeah. Well, you guys, what were your thoughts on the whole idea of the imposter Jason? You know, again, that's another thing that fans are divided on, you know, that it's not actually Jason, it's Roy.
Well, some hate the movie for that reason. I personally, again, not being a horror fan, I thought it was interesting and different and kind of a courageous way to go to do something different with the franchise. But obviously they realized they made a mistake and went back in part 6 and changed it all. Because I was signed to do both, and they changed everything.
I've definitely seen a big difference in fans more recently. It was a long time before I even knew there was controversy about it. I hadn't experienced it with fans, but I just think that it's changing a lot. I mean, if you really look at it, it really harkens back to the original because they both have the injured parent who is killing just anybody and everybody who doesn't necessarily have anything to do with their child's death, but they're just in a state of, you could call it grief, psychotic episode. So to me, it was really hearkening back to the original.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't, and I remember the first time I heard a fan who felt that they had been, I don't know, duped or whatever the feeling was for it. I was actually quite shocked, and then I saw that this was a theme among people. But I think for the same reason that so many fans felt like duped or tricked or their loyalty betrayed or whatever the feeling was, there's a whole group of people that really love this movie for the exact same reason, because it's a little fringy for the franchises. It's the fringy franchise.
Yeah, it was different with the Dark Horse, and yes, it's a love-hate. When they love it, they just love it for the same reason that the haters hate it. It's interesting.
I've had a lot, though, come back and say, initially they really, they loved it up to the very last moment. And it was like, and then they hated it. And it was like, well, I might want to rethink that then.
I had met Quentin Tarantino, and he told me that this is his favorite of the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
He found it to be the darkest, the seediest, and the greatest. He thinks this is the greatest Friday the 13th part of any of them. So I really like that.
Very cool.
Quentin should hire us then.
Absolutely.
So Deborah, the scene here where you go off with Robert, and of course you guys are about to get killed. I mean, what was that whole, I guess, process like shooting it, and then of course the makeup and working with everything?
The makeup definitely took a long time. It seems like it was at least 3 hours to get the makeup on. And of course beforehand, before the movie ever started, they had to do, it's a prosthetic, and it's a rubbery feeling, and it gives you this brain freeze that you can't stop. And but it went over the eyes, and then that's what they made the little mask out of, and the little place right on my nose where it looks like it's broken, that right there, that cartilage sticking out. And the hardest part of that, it's always uncomfortable, especially that was everything to do with the in the woods was all that first day. And so once they put the blood in the eyes, first of all, even though I had my eyes closed and the mask was there, it still seeped in. And so it really burned. And, it was there a long time. So it burned a long time.
What were you guys smoking here? What were you guys smoking here?
It was clothes.
Oh, rats.
I know. It was clothes. Which is probably a good thing, because I just, if I were to actually have smoked something, I would have been really out to lunch. That's for sure.
Danny should have given you some of his.
It was the 80s, right? It was the 80s.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. You definitely have the classic. I mean, you have a classic slasher movie death. You guys have sex, you smoke pot, and then you die. I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
Was it helpful, to shoot this at the? I mean, it is amazing that this is the first day. But has it helped to do it the first day and get it over with, and then you can relax the rest of the shoot?
I think it was a smart move to do it that way, because otherwise you're going to be nervous and kind of uptight about it. I know I would have been. And this way, it's just you got in there, and it's that rip the Band-Aid off all at once instead of pick at it. So I'm glad he did it that way. It worked out well for me.
So I should ask, you guys have a favorite death scene in the movie, each of you?
I didn't have one. Ha!
I mean, of all the ones in the movie that you liked the most or had the most fun with?
No, that's a sick question, Peter. That's so sick.
It's Friday the 13th.
Do you have a favorite death scene? Well, let me think. I like the torch in the mouth.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think I would have to go with both mine and Eddie's. I think those were both pretty brutal. I think the only thing that they missed on the Robert Dixon character, the Eddie character, is that is they needed the sound of breaking bone in this film. And that's about all I think they missed on it.
Danny liked this scene too.
Well, it always makes me laugh too that Jason is very well prepared. He has all these like weapons handy. He has shears and he has a strap for the tree. Very well prepared. But I remember this always got a big gas in the audience when Robert turns you over and we finally see your eyes, Deborah.
Right.
Great makeup artists, great special effects makeup artists.
Oh, we did have some really good people, didn't we?
Yep.
Yes.
Who was the lead makeup guy?
You know, Rick Baker did all the design for this, and Lou Lazara, who's one of my best friends, he's the one that gave me the whole scoop on this stuff, and Lou did a lot of the special effects also. But Rick Baker designed it.
And David Miller, was that one?
Yeah.
Let's get this show on the roll.
What's that whole was all the stuff done on like Tiffany and Deborah, like were the makeup applied like on set? Did you have to go to like a studio first and get like head or life cast or anything, or was it all just directly on the day?
If I understand your question correctly, that's what I was saying is before ever shooting, they had to make the prosthetics for it. But then the day of shooting, it was about a 3-hour process for me. What about you, Tiffany?
Well, again, it was a very late evening. But when they did all the makeup for the original death scene, and they said that this was going to tank us in the ratings, and we had to redo it. I mean, so they spent a fair amount of time doing the original makeup. I don't think it was any 3 hours though. It was just like, I had like black leggings on and those sweatpants, and they cut them from like knee to crotch. And then they applied this like nasty, like the congealed blood, right? And then the liquid blood over it. So I mean, I don't think it was like as huge of a deal to undo it and change it. And then of course, you see the new death scene, and they just were like, I think maybe that had to do with it being a late night. The fact that they used a pillow, right? For me, it's like everyone just wanted to go to sleep.
Oh, that's hilarious. So when the knife goes in your chest, it's actually a pillow.
Yeah. Well, it's in the stomach, and yes, you can clearly see that it's a pillow. I mean, I don't know exactly what kind of pillow, but I mean, well, you'll see when it comes up. It's that's the insert.
Did you join stunt driving, Mel?
I was actually driving this thing. Yeah, no, that's me. They told me I drove too fast, so we had to do a couple of takes.
Hopefully you got a stunt bonus for that.
No. And here we are, going to meet Demon.
Another more fan favorite characters.
He was a lot of fun. Those scenes were fun.
So it's kind of cute because it seems like Shavar has a little crush on you, like both in the movie and his character.
See, I didn't even know that. I didn't know any of that, and then he told me that he had a huge crush on me when we were shooting, and he was just so.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, it surprised me. He said, "Oh, I could barely speak around you," and he's so good in the scenes. There's Demon. He's so good in this, isn't he? Demon, yeah. Miguel Nunez, yeah.
Wow, man, where'd you get those bad rings from?
I love Shavar's little red jumper suit. It's like a target. It's all blood red.
He said, "Look, they guaranteed that they weren't going to kill me, so I took the job."
Because wasn't both he and you contracted for the second one, Melanie?
John,
The next one.
John, and Shavar and myself were contracted to do part 5 and 6, so we were set to do both films.
What happened? Yeah.
When we were supposed to start shooting a month or two after this, and then a month later, I got a message from my agent that Paramount called, and John is refusing to do part 6 because John was so upset with his part in doing horror because he's very religious. So, of course, I said, "Well, can't you do it with just me?"
Yeah.
So they had to revamp the whole thing because the story was going to pick up where we left off in part 5, which I think would have been very interesting to see where it went. But because John was out, the whole thing was scrapped.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. I wonder why they didn't just go ahead and go with you. I think that would have worked.
Well, they needed to have a killer, and they thought John was going to be the killer in the next part, and so they changed it all and made it Jason again.
Yeah.
Right. But that could have worked too, though, because it could have been a thing where you're like, look, something along the line of that Jason's not real, and then bada bing, he is.
Yeah. No, there's a lot they could have done with it. I just don't think they were thinking of being creative. It was all about making money at that point.
Well, it's interesting nowadays with, expanded universes and Netflix and serialized horror, it probably would have been different if they had done it now. I think they would have continued the characters. Yeah.
And they'd also seen the research that it didn't go well, that there was no Jason in 5. So they went back with the formula when John bailed. They went back with the formula.
Right.
Yeah, I think Tom McLaughlin said specifically that his marching orders from Paramount were you got to resurrect Jason somehow.
Yeah.
The whole thing with Lightning Bolt and all that.
Yeah, I didn't see it, but I hear it's one of the favorites. Part 6 is very popular.
Yeah, lots of people love that one.
Yep.
So did any of you, Tiffany or Deborah or Melanie, when you got the job before shooting started, did you go back and watch the other Friday the 13th specifically in preparation?
Well, I went to see part 4, the one before us, and Paramount brought me in and gave me a screening of part 4 because I needed to know what I was getting into, and I thought there was going to be continuity, so I needed to know the history. But it really had nothing to do with my character or anything, so. All it did was show me that I was in a horror film with a lot of blood, and I was disappointed. A new beginning. I thought it was a romantic comedy. I'm joking.
Yeah, did Deborah or Tiffany, do you guys specifically watch any of the movies ahead of time or no?
I didn't, but I do. If I have my timing right, I do think that I saw the first one before this film. It could have been a little bit after, but I don't think so. I think it was before.
You gonna be all right?
And I had seen, I had seen the first one prior to it. I enjoyed the slasher movies. I might have even seen the second one. I think that's when I kind of lost interest in them after the second one.
Yeah.
So I'm more of a psychological horror person. I don't really like the gory, but I love psychological horror. So I kind of just lost interest in the slasher films, but I probably revisited the first one, during shooting, I would guess. It's hard to remember that long ago.
This scene right now is a fan favorite. It's the top #1 scene that everyone loves, and I thought it was disgusting. It's gross because it's the scene in the outhouse. I found the whole thing gross, but it's a favorite that he gets killed in an outhouse with a beautiful girl watching.
Well, I think one thing fans love is the song they come up with, this "Ooh Baby"
yeah,
thing.
They did come up with that, yeah.
Someone actually, on YouTube, there's a remix. Someone did a dance remix of this. It's hilarious. You should check it out.
Oh, my God.
I think what people like, the fans that love this movie, it is so kind of crazy and weird. Like all of a sudden there's this weird musical song in an outhouse and then someone died. I mean, it is,
Well, you know what? When Tarantino says this is the craziest, darkest, creepiest film, it says a lot.
He should know. Yeah.
No, he definitely knows.
Now, I wanted to ask you, Tiffany. I've always wondered, because obviously your mother is Brooke Bundy, who was in Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4. Did you talk to her, or I'm not sure if that was that after this that she shot those?
Yeah, it was after. I believe. Like you can probably, you guys probably know better as far as the timeline, but
I know it would have been right after.
We're all after this.
I was wondering, did she come and talk to you and ask you any advice about being in another horror franchise?
No. No. But she did, because she's an actress. She had become an agent. She was teaching for a while. She kind of did it all. So there were definitely, more for like callbacks and such that I would get her input and get her to work with me for callbacks. But for actual shooting, no. I mean, it's, once I'm hired, then I'm kind of on my own thing.
It's interesting. It's too bad that one of you guys didn't do a Halloween film, because then you could have done all three. Nightmare.
Yeah, I agree.
Hey, it might happen yet. You never know. For Tiffany.
Good.
Yes, it's a very vibrant, kind of well shot movie. Was Stephen Posey the DP, I believe?
Yes, Stephen Posey. Yeah.
He did some interesting stuff with the camera moves and things like that.
I don't know, Reggie.
I think this is where the movie kind of starts to really pick up steam now.
Well, now it gets interesting.
Yeah.
So has anybody talked to Jerry? Or did he just... No? I really liked him. He was really, really nice to work with. Good guy.
Yeah, I actually kept in touch with him. He's a teacher now on the East Coast.
Okay.
Tell the funny story how some kids in his class, he teaches 6th or 7th grade. They discovered he was in a Friday the 13th movie, and one of the kids came to school and told everyone, and he was like the coolest teacher for like a week, he said. So
that's great.
I'll bet.
Junior and Ethel's death, of course.
I never saw this.
We're doomed.
Yeah, this is another couple of deaths that got really heavily edited by the MPAA. I think originally his head, when he gets cut off, it bounces like 7 times. But that was all gone.
What, they cut it down to 3 times?
It just flies off. I think it bounces once. Yeah.
Ron still has the head.
Oh, does he?
Yes, Ron owns the head.
So for all you guys, when the movie came out, it did well. I'm sure as actors you go on and you do other projects, but was there a time over the years when you started to realize that this had become a cult movie and a whole big thing?
For me, it was 20 years later. 20 years later. I had no idea.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's the same for me too. And I, about 20 years and doing my first horror con is when I was just like, whoa, it blew my hair back quite a bit.
When it really became apparent to me, a fan said to me, this film is on some screen somewhere in the world every day. And that, wow. It's playing somewhere on some screen. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, it was a long time for me too, to really realize it. It wasn't until I started talking to the fans that I realized how much it was loved. It's pretty interesting.
Get this, I still have the pink sweater and the freaking watch.
Really?
I'm still wearing that watch.
So I guess I should take this opportunity now to ask you, Melanie, about the infamous sweater.
Don't get me started about this sweater. My complaints about the sweater are now legendary. I went when I saw the final cut. There was a cast and crew screening. I was mortified that editing screwed it up so badly that I have scenes where I have the sweater on, and 2 seconds later it's off, and then a second later it's on. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that Paramount would get that wrong, that it was a simple editing thing. And it ruined the whole thing for me. I know it sounds dramatic, but it did. It ruined the whole thing for me.
Continuity's king.
It is very important. You can get away with a few small things, but that's pretty big.
That is huge. It's blaring. And it's Paramount. Come on.
They had to have known, and they had to have approved.
They didn't care. They wanted to save the money. They didn't care. And, you know, I ranted about it once, and I got some flack for it. And the editor said bad things about me. That I had bigger things to worry about than my sweater, and that if I was a better actor, people would have been paying attention to the scene and not the sweater, and they wouldn't have noticed the sweater was missing and coming back and missing and reappearing.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
cool.
What are you talking about, Jake?
Wow.
I want to be with you.
Is continuity like something like, shouldn't that be a continuity person?
It's so simple.
Well, I mean, but once like they shoot it,
The guys there on this, I mean, there's someone there all the time, and then the editor, he didn't notice. They could have taken, there was so much footage. I shot that chase scene for days, maybe 5 days. So just put together the scenes where the sweater's gone. Don't bring it back.
I didn't mean it.
That's like having me running and my hair's not wet. You notice they didn't do that. They got that right. My hair's wet and it stays wet.
I didn't mean it.
Well, the same thing with the sweater. See, now I'm mad again. Peter, thank you.
Well, I'm
sorry. Mad again.
Well, it's so funny because honestly, until you talked about it as a kid, I never noticed. Of course, I was 12.
Because my acting was so good in that scene, you were mesmerized.
Yes. I was not paying attention. Yes.
I don't care if it was Meryl Streep. If that sweater was coming and going, they would have noticed.
So I guess, right, so Melanie and Tiffany, right, you guys worked nights, but Deborah, you wouldn't have worked any nights, right? Because you guys had to switch your whole schedule, right?
Vi. 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 I'd like to talk to you.
Huh?
I need to talk to you.
Can it wait?
I love this song in this scene.
Oh, it's coming up. This is actually, there's two. She'll come back later and do her dance.
Oh, I thought
Yes.
the music was already. You're right.
Almost.
You're right. You're
Yeah.
right.
We'll get it. Yeah, she kind of has a pre one here.
What's her name? Pseudo Echo.
Pseudo Echo, yes.
God, what a great song.
I don't know if you know Tiffany. I actually interviewed Brian Canham, who is the lead singer and one of the founders of Pseudo Echo, and and he is very. I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry. You got to tell me this.
Oh yeah, so because I'm correct, right, that you actually picked Pseudo Echo. You're the one who brought that song, His Eyes.
I'm the one that picked it out. Nobody freaking knew anything about this band or the song. I was like playing the album because I was, ultra fringy new wave goth chick at the time. But yeah, it seemed like that this scene kind of put it on the map, and I was like, where are these guys? How come I haven't heard from them? Like I wanted like a hey, thanks, Tiff. And I'd be like, hey, man, thanks for the tune.
Well, they have. So I interviewed Brian. So what happened was we did the book, and I wasn't able to get it in touch. And then we did the ebook version. So I interviewed him for the ebook, and So his comments are in there. That's probably why you don't know about it, because it's not in the original book. But he said he is so grateful because when this movie came out, they had no idea in Australia, their Australian band, that they think about Friday the 13th. And he's like, they started getting attention. It helped them with their record deal, and they still do that song, His Eyes, in concert a lot of times because fans just go crazy for it. So he said he's so grateful that you picked that song.
I'll have to see if he's on IG or something. What is his name?
Brian Canham, Canham. I'll send you the interview if you want to read it too, the full transcript. So
yeah, I'd love to
get them connected. She
it was a long time ago.
definitely deserves to chat with him.
Yeah. Well, actually, but in all seriousness, I mean, I was a fan. I knew who they were because I was into alternative stuff too. But like a lot of people still don't know who they are. But what was it about that song, His Eyes, that like made you think of that specific?
Actually, it was kind of a fluke that it all came together because all of the stuff that I wanted was from probably a little bit more well-known, like in just different bands, and their obscurity is what sold it because they were able to get the rights to the song, right? Like so many. I mean, I couldn't even have a picture of Sid Vicious up in my room. I wanted to die next to my picture of Sid Vicious. I thought that would be so poetic. And they said, nope, his estate, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, his estate? Are you freaking kidding me? He's like a street punk. But anyway.
So here's the big dance. Here's the big dance number.
Yeah, so their obscurity is what got that song. I mean, I brought it to Danny, Frank, whoever I brought it to, and because it worked. I mean, I listened to the lyrics. I'm like, this will work. So when they were like, yes, it does. I mean, I didn't have to shove it down their throats. That for sure. I just like, what about this?
So you definitely have to tell us about the dance. Everyone loves your dance, robot dance here, I guess.
Yes, I'm spoofed on YouTube. So you've made it when you get spoofed.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, I've told the story that, I mean, you can see when Jerry first comes into the room, that dance I was doing, like when they changed the scene, and then there's my banjo. I actually do play that banjo, by the way. When Jerry first comes in and that kind of strange dance I'm doing, that's what I thought I was going to have to do when they changed it to me dancing in my room when Roy comes in. But here you'll see the pillow in just a second. So again, it was kind of like the song where I'm like, well, there's this other thing that we do at clubs, and once again, Danny's trust in me, I think, sold it. So they liked it, and it worked.
It's so funny because now it's ruined for me. I didn't know about the pillow. Now it's so obviously a pillow.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I spoiled anything on that one. I mean, people have brought it up to me too, that it's like, oh yeah, it's. I mean, I think that's called. We need to rewrite this scene, and we're running out of time. The day, like we can't keep people here for like 24 hours straight, right? Like they need to go to sleep.
I thought coming up here is kind of. I always thought it was pretty creepy when Shavar opens the door and all three of you are dead on the bed together.
Yeah, that's a drag to see.
Yeah.
Well, this is kind of where the movie then really takes off for you, Melanie, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now I have something to do.
Was that something like when you read the script, you see like, oh my God, it's going to be 30 pages at night in the rain, or do you even not think about that?
I didn't think about it because I didn't know what that meant until I actually had to do it. And it was freezing. It's always warm in California, but no, it was freezing, and I was. They had the rain machine, so I was wet and freezing, and got the flu. And I got the flu during this scene, and I told them I was sick, and Danny said, "Cut, get the medic in here." And this big guy comes in with a doctor's case and whips out a needle. and gives me a shot in the rear and says, okay, well, you're done. And I said, what'd you just give me? He said, I gave you B12, you should feel better. And Danny said, okay, let's shoot. Well, I didn't feel better, but I knew I had to shoot the scene, so. Yeah, I had
Well, they must have been pushing that B12 a lot, because I've got one too.
Yeah.
It definitely helped me, though. I'm sorry it didn't help you.
Well, I was so sick at that point. I think I had 102 degree
Oh my gosh, bless your heart.
running in the rain. Okay, there's the sweater. There's the pink sweater.
So is this like fun stuff though? I mean, this is like
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. I was tired, but when you enjoy what you do, you don't care about that. That was a lot of fun. Some things were very difficult. The sweater's gone.
Oh.
Some things were very difficult to do, but you do it.
well, it's like this is like classic horror movie stuff. Like this is stuff like when you're a kid, you play, you run into the hall and imagine there's a killer. Well, I did when I was a kid, but
Now, this was all shot in Franklin Canyon, off of Mulholland.
well, I know what people love in this scene is when Jason pops up and then and runs off on his own. See you later.
There's the best scream in the whole film is Reggie's. Yeah, he's out. He
Yeah.
says, every man for
Yeah.
himself. See ya. And he could run. Look at him. I can't keep it. And there's the sweater again.
So was that in the script that he runs ahead of you, or did he just run faster
No,
than
no,
you?
no.
Oh.
It was in the script.
Oh, okay. So I guess I should ask you what you guys, all of your guys' experience, Deborah, Tiffany, and Melanie, working with Tom Morga as Jason.
Tom was just the best. I had a lot of work with him because we had to block a lot of the stuff. We had to block the fight scene with the chainsaw. And he and I were alone in the dark for a long time where Shavar would be gone. It was just Tom and I in some of these close-up scenes in the rain. And it was long, long hours. It was like 4 in the morning. And Tom at one point just sat down and he looked at me and said, I don't know how you're doing this.
Tiffany and Deborah, do you remember working with Tom?
I actually didn't end up working with Tom. It was, I don't know who it was who actually was standing over me for the garden shear scene, but I know he was redheaded and a ginger beard.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I adored Tom. I was really happy that like I got to see him again at one of the horror cons. He was great to work with. He was funny, and I've shared before, like he'd hide in the orange groves, right? Like Juliet and I would be out in the orange groves, and he would like spook us. And he was great, and and we obviously had our scene together, and he's a wonderful, supportive stuntman / actor. What can I say? I'm a Tom fan.
This was all shot in one take, by the way. The scene we just saw, it was one take, and it was like 5 minutes of action.
Wow.
Yeah, because Danny said to me, you got to get this, because we can't once that window breaks, and we can't redo any of this stuff. So he said, you start here, and you end there. Everything you do in between, I don't care, it's up to you, but you have to end here. So yeah, that was, the camera just followed, and it was one take, and I was so glad that we got it in one. The pressure was on. I couldn't screw that up because they couldn't go back and redo it. And then this stuff, we had a bunch of takes because there were a lot of technical things from the barn that didn't go well. But and so that was easier to retake. It just meant longer hours in the rain and cold. As a matter of fact, right off camera here is Frank Mancuso is sitting in a raincoat watching this whole thing that night.
That must suck. You're like freezing in the rain. Everyone else is sitting off with coats and raincoats.
Well, but it was kind of nice to have that support where I finished the take and he came over and he put a coat over me and he said, "You did a great job." He said, "You really did a great job. I'm proud of you." So that was, Frank Mancuso Jr. was the one that gave me the thumbs up, that gave me the great good job.
God. God.
I must say, Shavar was a very good driver of a tractor. I'm impressed that a 12-year-old can drive a tractor like that.
Now this next scene, this stuff where he's walking and then the inside the barn and the chainsaw scene was shot on Halloween night.
Wow.
Yeah.
How near to the end then? Was this pretty much the end of the shoot then, I assume?
I had a few more. I think I had another week and a half,
wow.
because then we do the mental hospital stuff. But I remember it was Halloween night when we shot this, and it was a really long shoot. And Dick Warlock, who's a very well-known stunt coordinator, was there for this, because he took me aside and he said, we did a bunch of rehearsals, and he said, don't hurt Tom. We need to really block this out, because I don't want him to lose an arm.
Was that a real chainsaw?
Real chainsaw. It weighed
Wow.
more than I could ever imagine. It weighed about 70 pounds when it was on, buzzing. They fired it up for me and handed it to me, and then he said action. I couldn't believe the weight of this thing. And it vibrated, so it made you had to hold it steady. Your whole body was vibrating.
Oh my gosh. Did you say 70
It was like
pounds?
70 pounds, yeah. It was very, very, very heavy. Maybe it wasn't that much, but it certainly was more than 40.
Wow.
Wow.
I just grabbed it thinking it's a prop. And then here it goes. Yeah. Tom is so scared in this scene because I'm not a stunt woman, and he thought she's going to hurt me.
Oh man.
So did you have I'll ask each of you, do you guys have a favorite scene?
This is my favorite scene.
Oh gosh, I don't know. I guess if I were going to pick one that I was in, I would pick the one with the cops. That one was just silly fun to do. And taking it more from a perspective of just, doing the scene.
Sure.
Yeah, it probably has changed over the years, but just looking at now, I would have to give props to Ethel and Junior's entrance.
See Tom Morgan, he's scared there.
Yeah.
You see his eyes in that scene? He's scared because he survived that chainsaw with me.
Well, it's funny because some fans also, I guess it's not a big controversy, but they, I guess, complain that Tom Morgan is too skinny to be Jason. He's not big enough.
Why, were Jason's big?
Yeah, some were bulkier, yeah. He's definitely, he's a different build, certainly, than some of the other Jasons. But again, it's not Jason, so
No.
it's Roy, yeah. His mask is different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the clothes are so bulky, I don't know how they can really tell.
Yeah. Oh, fans, they're very obsessive. Like, they talk about the mass differences down to the way the marks are. Oh, yeah. You guys know. Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I forget what happens here because I haven't seen this film in a long time. Oh.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, too, because John Shepard really has very few lines in this movie.
I think he's got
all-
2.
Yeah. He said Boo Radley was his inspiration for the
Yeah.
character. Ooh.
Right in the groin. Oh, there we go.
When did you guys start doing conventions? And what was that kind of
I
experience? like?
started really late in the game because I didn't want to charge fans for...
When did you start, Melanie?
I started in 2011.
Ah.
They had been asking me for years, and I just didn't want to charge fans for autographs. I felt really weird about that. And then what changed it was they were forging my signature on stuff and selling it.
Oh.
So then I went, hey, wait a second.
Yeah, right? Wow.
And fans were getting ripped off. They were sending me shots of what they purchased and said, is this your signature? And I started to feel really badly about it because they were getting robbed, you know? So I thought, okay, I'm going to do them. At least they'll get a real signature.
Right. Wow, that's pretty low.
Oh, yeah, dealers were charging people $100 for a shot of me with a signature that was so not my signature. Wow. And they were just forging it. I was shocked. I really was shocked.
Oh, I bet. I am too. How did they figure it wouldn't get back to you? That's pretty crazy.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? But it did. It took a long time, but it did get back to me. One person, then a couple more, and then...
Do you know who it was who did it? Was it one person or more than one?
There was more than one.
Wow.
I imagine the internet probably has changed a lot, right?
Yeah,
Things.
yeah. This was before they could really police it, you know.
Has the internet changed things for you guys in terms of interacting with your fans of these movies?
Oh, yeah, I think it completely changed everything. Because, I mean, I guess that was also another moment when I really realized how much, you know, Friday the 13th is loved, is when you see the fans gathering all together and all the horror groups and stuff to realize, you know, the intensity of the emotion and the feelings surrounding it.
Yeah. I remember seeing this in the theater as a kid, and a lot of people didn't even know that was Roy. It was hard to, the angle of it, it's hard to, it's kind of hard to make out. Oh, wait, that's too soon. He has a good death, though. The death on the bed of spikes is pretty good.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Although someone I didn't even realize it is a couple of fans made the comment that Roy kills everyone but Vic, who's the one who actually killed his son. So the person that killed his son gets away with it, basically.
I know, it's kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
I think that I would have really liked it a lot better if they would have made the choice to leave him out and not be arrested. Because then, you know, it would truly be a whodunit. You know, is it this guy out there killing people and posing?
Yeah. Although, again, you know, like you said, Deborah, you know, people forget the first movie was a mystery. You didn't know who Mrs. Voorhees was for...
You didn't?
Yeah, 80% of the movie, yeah. And no one minded. I mean, that was a huge hit, so...
right?
Yeah. So this was probably near the end then, Melanie.
This is the end. This is the last scene. This is at Camarillo State Hospital.
Were there any different endings or anything else shot or scripted that you remember?
There were a couple things, yeah, but they went with this one.
Did you shoot anything else, or was this the only thing you actually shot?
This is the only thing we actually shot. We rehearsed other stuff, but this is the only thing we actually shot. This was the scene Danny and I fought because he thought I was crying too much. I said, really? I just went through hours of trying to save my life. So, yeah, he said, you're crying too much here. Speed it up, you're crying too much.
This I love too. Fans always love too is when the sheriff here opens and shows the pictures. There's like a still of Jason like posing. Where did that picture come from? I guess Jason posed for a picture.
Oh, wait to see his mugshot.
Yeah. Jason with the mask on. So.
Roy was a real loner. Never talked.
Jason does his own publicity stills apparently.
And blue eyeshadow is still on. I still have the makeup on.
It was the 80s, right? Yeah.
That takes talent.
Yeah.
So when did you guys first see the completed film? Just what were your thoughts on the film itself at the time?
Oh,
I know it's changed over the years.
I was so disappointed. I can't explain what I thought it was going to be because I only knew my scenes. I didn't go and see others, and I was just shocked. I thought the quality would be better, and like I said, not to keep harping on it, but the sweater, the continuity blew it for me. I was just disappointed at the quality of the film.
Tommy.
Well, so now we're here. God, this movie is going to be 35 years old this year. So I guess for each of you, I mean, what does Friday the 13th mean to you now? What has it become for you?
Well, it's changed over the years. It's really become a gift, and I'll tell you why. I've met so many people. I have gotten so many letters from fans who are positive about it. It meant something to them. It didn't mean anything to me. It meant something to them. And to hear their stories, that I was part of whatever joy or escape that they got from it. Some escaped, abusive childhoods, and they would go to the movies and see these films, and the fact that I was part of something positive, happy moments in their life, that means a lot to me.
Yeah, and I would definitely chime in on that one too. That it's, I hear there wasn't really any fringy characters back in the 80s in film. So there's a lot. I have a lot of fans who really felt they could relate to my character, just in, they were going through their own alternative style or whatever, and they appreciated it, so they really could relate to Violet. And kind of like what Melanie was saying, I really appreciate being part of anything positive or helping turn somebody's life in a better path. And it seems it's a little humbling when you think about this film. This just, it's another Friday franchise, and that it does have that kind of power on people. Like, the horror fans are incredibly loyal and devoted and passionate about it. Kind of like what Melanie said, I've met so many people. Like, I have friends now, like through the fan page, and some people have crossed over and actually become my friends. And it's an amazing genre. And I really like doing the horror cons and meeting the people.
Yeah, their stories always amaze me. I'm sure you get at the cons, they talk to you and tell you their personal stories, and it's always so surprising to me that this had such an impact, a positive impact on their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I found to be really interesting, that a genre that is known for violence and blood and, just this gore factor, and how many people it really did help along the way, whether it was escapism or whatever, that they felt this strong connection. And I thought, isn't it interesting how you can end up helping people and not even realizing it? And I think that, back to your other question about, kind of what I was initially thinking about the film, I think that when I first saw it, I think I saw it as, I think when it really kind of hit me as to the early on impression watching it with the audience was really realizing that it was kind of like a swashbuckling Saturday matinee where everybody just got to be silly and laugh and kid and have fun with it. It wasn't this heavy seriousness. It's not like everybody's sitting there, ooh, yay, that person's dying. And it's not this like crazy, weird fascination with gore as much as it is, kind of like a bunch of kids who love Halloween and love dressing up. They don't take it seriously. It's fun. They're completely cognizant that it's fake and pretend. And then that was greatly reinforced once I started meeting and talking to fans.
So, do you guys have any last thoughts, I guess, for the fans watching this?
Well, I'm grateful to them. I'm grateful to the fans for their constant loyalty towards me and the film. And if you look at the last shot, as we were talking, I was looking at the last shot of John with the mask on and the eyes and the knife up. And that's where we were supposed to pick up part 6. And you can see him turn into the killer. So I just wanted to point that out to the fans out there, to look at his eyes there. It's a whole story in his eyes.
I do think that would have been an interesting way to go. It would have brought it in to a more realism. But, that's okay. Yeah, I guess, I would just say that I'm very grateful to the fans for the kind words and, also for helping me get my Film 13 fanboy off the ground, which is a completely different feel. It's has a very intense realism to it. So, yeah, I guess thank you.
Thank you to everybody who has supported the film and who reaches out to us. And yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all. Thanks all.
Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, thank you.